This interview is about the fifth person who was targeted after helping me with my interviews. There was Annabelle, one of her friends. There was one of the females in the comments. There was the female from Houston, and we have the interview where her daughter also speaks out. And now there is this person, the lady with experience in psychology. So let's start off by helping you people to understand what is going on. The Cold War arguably never ended. As anyone who is keeping up with current events knows, we have a sort of Cold War going on with Russia. And RT, one could argue, is a mouthpiece for Russia. And CNN, ABC, MSNBC, Fox, and others are sort of the mouthpiece for America, especially on YouTube. So let's read a little bit about what the Cold War is about. There was the doctrine of mutually assured destruction. Ironically, the acronym is MAD or MAD. Aside from the development of the two sides' nuclear arsenals and deployment of conventional military forces, the struggle for dominance was expressed via proxy wars around the globe, psychological warfare, massive propaganda campaigns and espionage, rivalry at sports events, and technological competitions such as the space race. Now, for those of you who have been paying attention, you know that psychological warfare is part of what they're doing to me with the drugging and fuming and more. Massive propaganda campaigns and espionage, absolutely part of it. Now, the rivalry at sporting events, the sports events, has to do with UFC replacing traditional martial arts and them teaming up with any traditional martial artists who hold their loyalty to America above honor, their family, their race, humanity, and God. Okay? So they're trying to make a sport out of martial arts. Remember, this is about dominance. Look at the screen. Dominance. I have dominated them, exposing their psychological warfare, destroying their propaganda with thousands of well-articulated videos with over 10,000 valid sources. I have confounded the applications of their surveillance state or espionage, and I have completely put them to shame as their pitiful attempt to make me look bad has backfired to the extreme. And their technology has not allowed them the ability to gain the upper hand. Remember, the Cold War was from 1947 to 1991. As I would like you to look on the screen right now, you see that this is some sort of a picture or stamp. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was part of the Soviet propaganda, which held some truth, that they were sticking up for African independence and things of this nature. While America had problems with civil rights all throughout the Cold War, especially during the 50s and 60s. Now, one can argue that the only reason the civil rights movement, made any difference is because there was a Cold War with Russia, and Russia was putting America to shame. Russia and the other communist nations, like China, were putting America to shame by sticking up for black people while Americans exploited them with their allies. With this being said, apartheid officially ended in 1994. And that is 3 years after the Cold War ended. And remember, America and Israel supported the apartheid regime almost the entire time. The CIA even helped the South Africans capture Mandela. It's a no-brainer to see that if you are pro-American, you are racist. This is not something that happened 500 years ago. This is something that happened within almost every one of your lifetimes, unless you're a teenager or something. So, let's get into this, shall we? During our last interview, I noticed, and I'm sure you have as well, that we started having problems at the same time with our speech patterns. Towards the end of the interview,
Right, yes.
the later clips. And you're telling me that some suspicious things have happened and you feel dizzy, and this is consistent with the symptoms of being drugged. Can you elaborate on this?
Yes. So 4 weeks ago, when we started doing these interviews, I noticed that every time I was talking to you, I actually felt kind of drowsy. And then, when I'd be off, doing my daily things, I'd have something to eat, and I just started to feel dizzy. Initially, it wasn't that bad. I thought I kept brushing it off. Oh, it's nothing big, and as the weeks progressed, it just got worse. And then I haven't also been able to sleep. There's been insomnia, and the insomnia is really bad. And one could argue that it was probably the fact that I was, not sleeping, but it was the dizziness that initiated not for me not to sleep. So it wasn't the other way around. And I also noticed my food. It wasn't tasting the same. I felt sick, quite nauseous. And it's just progressively gotten worse. I mean, I didn't really want to tell you because I didn't want you to feel, as though, it was and I didn't really want to sort of share it with you because I didn't want you to feel that, because I'm talking to you and you experience it, that anyone who talks to you tends to have this kind of experience. So I sort of had to reserve it as much as I could, but really I can't really tell you. And just odd things have started to happen, I'd say covertly, but, it's just I've never experienced this before.
Yes. So also we have the hacking, and I'm gonna put that picture on the screen as well. I should have put it on the screen already. The
Yeah,
hacking.
so the hacking also kicked in like the second week we started carrying out the interviews. So that meant that I couldn't access my emails. I really couldn't have any kind of communication in that sense with other parties that I was speaking to. And it has affected my life. I mean, the drugging has definitely affected my life because I can't go out, I can't drive. I'm a liability. That's how bad my condition is. And I've just never experienced this before. It's kind of bizarre. It's almost like I'm deliberately being housebound.
All right. So from your experience, well, I have two questions. Number one, do you shop at the same places you usually do? Have you?
Yes,
Yeah. So you've been shopping at the same. How many
I,
places would you say it is?
it's predominantly just one place.
Oh, there you
But
go.
well, it's just one place, and I noticed that I don't know whether anyone was watching what I was buying, but it just seems like I've had that food in the past before, but since I've been talking to you, I've noticed that my food it does seem to taste strange. The effects it's having on me had an impact on my health. Um, it's kind of too much of a coincidence. I wouldn't even say it's a coincidence
Oh,
because I've been purchasing those things for years. It's not like I've never done it before and it's just like, randomly purchased. No, I've purchased those things for years, and then why would it be like that in this past 4 weeks?
yes. I'd like to say at this point, they have a long history of raping women, and I want to be on record saying whoever's doing this, the government, whoever, I'm the top martial artist. I've outsmarted you people this whole time. If anything of that nature happens to this lady, I will retaliate, and you will not like how I do it. You might think you're tough, but for the same reason you're hiding from me and my martial arts challenge, it's the same reason it is a very, very bad idea to pursue this line of thinking. You've already displayed an appalling desire to harm children when you drove that lady from Houston off the road with her 5 children in the SUV. You are disproportionately rapists and pedophiles, and I'm already inclined to punish you for that. Don't push it. You heard the interview about the lady with the 5 kids from Texas, right?
Okay.
These.
I haven't got that kind of energy. I know she went on a rant because she obviously felt really. That's terrible because she was fearful of her children being hurt, and for somebody to do that, it's just outrageous.
And one of her children spoke out in the interview as well. You heard that as well. I'll put the link in the comments and the description.
And she was very descriptive as well, the child, and what kind of vehicle it was and how it happened.
And we have a screenshot from her of the police calling during one of the interviews. They at first denied having broken into her home, but so many neighbors witnessed it that they then called her during interview when she was talking about it to tell her that they were there, but they denied breaking in because they denied even being there. So from your experience with psychology, kind of give a percentage, right? What are the odds that me and 4 other people who were not experiencing this before until they did interviews with me, or commented consistently on my videos, in the case of one of them, everyone else did video interviews. What are the odds that all these people are experiencing gang stalking and 3 or so are experiencing drugging, and that it would only be a coincidence?
No, that is highly impossible. That's a coincidence because I've experienced it, and I didn't. I really tried to. I kept it in denial, and it's only today that I've actually told you because I thought, oh no, I was actually thinking it was a coincidence. The fact is that it just seems to coincide with all the times I've spoken with you, when we've carried out the interviews. It's gradually just gotten worse, and it's gotten to the point that I had no choice but to tell you.
All right, so I've noticed that your speech patterns have changed since when I first met you. When I first met you and we talked, over the internet, at first you were fluid. You hardly made any mistakes in grammar, hardly had to correct yourself. Now it seems that you're making some mistakes, but you're still very articulate. We have about 2 minutes left. I want you to briefly touch on the FBI, the guy who wanted you to believe he's from the FBI, who added you on Facebook, and touch on your notes from the last interview.
Yeah, so basically, after we spoke last night, I got a request which was really unusual, which appeared to be somebody who was in the military, but they seemed to have connections with the FBI, and there were kind of unusual videos attached to it, which was really bizarre. And then I noticed the interview that we carried out yesterday. It's right in the middle of I think it's around 29 minutes, isn't it, the interview? So by about 14 minutes into the interview, you start picking up the fact that we start stuttering, slurring, making mistakes, and then there's a gap, and then later on again, 28 minutes into it, at the last stage, happens again. So it's kind of like these blips.
All right, well, we're almost out of time. I'll just end it there. Thanks for the interview. Oh,
Thanks.
Briefly, I want to bring up that what made you think that this person had a connection from the FBI was, the videos on their page, right? Their Facebook.
The connections that were the likes.
Okay.
And the interest.
All right, and you only had one picture, right?
He only had one picture, yeah.
All right, we're out of time. Thank you. that gang stalking isn't real is the same as saying rape isn't real.
Gone to doctors many times, and I've been to the Rape Crisis Center for counseling, yes.
Many of the so-called victims of what Hall describes as gang stalking meet up on the internet, finding comfort and information from others who say they too suffer from electronic stalking, mind control, and even rape. Loosely defined, gang stalking is where organized groups target and harass unwilling victims to the point of paranoia, leaving the victims to deal with skeptical family members and skeptical law enforcement.
This isn't stalking,
Because the cops aren't usually in on it.
On our website, kcba.com. New tonight, police call it bullying on steroids. We're talking about gang stalking, but it actually has nothing to do with the gangs that you first think of. Central Coast News reporter Candace Wynn learned more about the trend and how it's getting more dangerous because of the internet.
It makes me feel afraid.
Lawrence Gazzino claims his neighbors are gang stalking him because he plays loud music late at night and is outspoken. He said for the last year and a half, he's been systematically followed by a group of people. At one point, he said they climbed on his roof to harass him. Gazzino said he's developed a paranoia that's devastated his relationships with friends and, worst of all, family.
That's the worst part of it. If it was me, I would take action.
Santa Cruz Police Lieutenant Larry Richards said police are becoming more aware of gang stalking because of cyberbullying. But what is gang stalking?
Basically, the victims could be driving their car or talking on their phones or walking the streets when a group of people try to systematically terrorize them.
Richards said gang stalking is nothing new, but new technology is making it more common.
Gang stalking itself, they have elevated themselves to technology. So this is something that's been going on before the age of Facebook, Twitter, those other social websites. They just now have gone into those areas.
Gazzino said he's proof that the problem isn't just online and that it can hit too close to home, a home he plans on leaving because of gang stalking.
I want to be able to go to the tennis courts and play tennis or play ping pong without people following us everywhere. It's just nerve-wracking.
I'm Candace Wen in Salinas, your Central Coast News.
If found guilty of gang stalking, a person may face criminal, conspiracy, and stalking charges, all of which are felony charges in California.